Hello everyone, and how are we doing today? Today's recording is the live lab for 5/18/2021. We're going to try to make sure we all know that VLSM. So we're looking at a packet tracer. We can see we have a router with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gigabits. And then you look at the host requirements. So I highlight them here with the yellow boxes. So if you had me last semester, if you had other instructors, I stayed with class C, and we did a little VLSM, so we have to learn VLSM now. So when I get in any environment or I get to any lab I'm doing, I want to look at my requirements with routers, switches, PCs. So gigabit 00 needs 2,000 end devices. Gigabit 10 needs 1,000. Gigabit 40 needs 500. Gigabit 20 needs 200. And gigabit 30 needs 300. So these are large numbers. So what I like to do is I call it notepad subnetting. And so you can see here, I have a notepad, and I have 3 questions here. Question 1 is, how many host requirements or zeros do you need? Second question is, what is the increment? And the third question is, what is our new subnet mask? So the environment we're dealing with today, the topology has a 172.16.0/16, which means we have the third octet and the fourth octet with zeros. Subnetting is about turning the zeros into ones. And so if we look at our first host requirement, we're looking at 2,000. So if you go to this handy chart here, I'm going to highlight 2,000. So that's the first question. We need 2,000 devices. So how many zeros? Well, that would be 11. So how many zeros would be 11? So if we go to our subnet mask, we see we have 8 zeros in the fourth octet. We got to steal some zeros from the third octet. So if we have 8, there's 9, 10, 11. So we need 11 zeros. So the rest of these will have to be turned into ones. So delete those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what we need now was the increment. So if we look here, the one stop, let's see, we have 128, 64, 32, 16, and 8. So the increment stopped on 8. So the increment is going to be an 8. Now, what is our new subnet mask? So if we add up 128, 64, 32, 16, and 8, I believe that is 248. So 248. So what we do now is we jump down here. So I know that we are going to increment by 8 in the third octet. It says it right here, and I'm stopped on the 8-bit up here. So that means this next network is going to start at 8. And so then we need to determine where this one's going to end. So at this point, let's put our subnet mask out here. I'll come back in a second here. 255.255.248.0. I'm going to reset the activity real quick. Put these all back because we got to do the next part of our subnetting. I'm going to leave this here because I want to show you kind of how I say we're going to walk the zeros up and down. So let's go to our scenario. So if this one starts at 0, and this next one is going to start at the number 8, so this one must stop at 7,255. And we're going to come back to that shortly here. Let's move back to gigabit 10. We have 1,000 hosts. So if we look at our chart, we need 10 zeros. So go back up here. We have 8 in the third octet. That means we need 2 here. So that means we got to flip one of these into a 1. So that's what I mean by walking the ones and the zeros around when we're subnetting. So now, if we look at our increment, 128, 64, 32, 16, 8, and 4. So we said we needed how many zeros? That would have been 10. The increment, we're looking at 4. And then our new subnet mask is, we're going to add up the subnet mask in the third octet. 128, 64, 32, 16, 8, and 4. I believe that's 252. So 252 would be the .0 subnet mask. So let's go back here. We're going to increment by 4. So we have this one starting at 8. So if we add 4 to 8, it becomes 12. So what I'm doing is I'm finding my increment. We said the first increment was 8. So that goes 0 to 8. The next increment was 4. So we went from 8 to 12. So now we can figure out the end of the second network. I always like to do the networks first. So 0, the 8, and the 12, because then it makes it easy over here. If this one starts at 8 and this one starts at 12, where does this one end? 11. And I believe we said the subnet mask was 255.255.252.0. Okay. Now we're moving on to our third network, which actually, if you look at it, 0, 1, and 2. So it's going to be our second network over here, but it's the actual third we're doing. So 500 hosts. Once again, find 500 on the chart. We need 9 zeros. So if we go up here, so we need 9 zeros. Make sure I did the math right. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So we have 8 zeros in the fourth octet. Now we have 9. So we said how many zeros? We can change this to a 9. Now we got to figure out the increment. It looks like it's on the 1, 2 spot. The increment will be by 2s. And the new subnet mask will be 254. So if we go back down here, this one starts at 12. We're going to increment by 2. So this one will be 172.16.14.0. Now we can figure out the end of 172.16, and then we say this one starts at 12. This one starts at 14. So it has to end at 13.255. New subnet mask is 255, 255, 254.0. And then if we look at our 1, 2, 3, fourth network, it needs 200. So once again, we go to the chart. This one should be very familiar to you. So how many zeros do we need? We need 8. What is our increment? Well, where does the 1 stop at? Stops on the 1 bit, so the increment is 1. New subnet mask would be 255. And so now we can do the next network here. If we're incrementing by 1 and we are starting at network 14, add 1 to 14, 15. And then we can just go ahead and wrap up the last network at 200. It's going to follow the same pattern. So it's going to be incrementing by 1s. So instead of 15, it's going to increment to 16. And then our end would be 172.16.15.255. Then 172.16.15.255. And 255.255.255.0. So that's the subnetting. And now we're sitting at this increment here of the next network at 16. So if we have more networks to grow, we're going to use those. So here is your subnetting for tonight's lab. So I'm going to end the video and I'm going to show you how to assign IPs into the devices and then the expectations of your configurations. This concludes this video.